Hi, this is Howie from Prime Your Pump, entertaining and actionable self-improvement. This week's lesson is about 17 tips about how to be a better student that I've developed over the last 41 years. So here we go. Number one, pay attention in class. Don't zone out. I can't tell you how irritating it is when you're sitting looking at a sea of students and their eyeballs are looking in every direction other than at you. All right? You should pay attention like you're going to be asked a question in a few seconds. The second point is when you are asked a question and you don't know the answer, say, could you please give me a few seconds to think about it? Because the fact of the matter is that if a professor asks you a question, most people it takes 5 or 10 seconds for them to process the question and think about an answer. So don't just sit there blank. Say, give me a few seconds to be able to get an answer. The third thing is about how to sit in class. And students who sit in the last row, in my experience, usually don't participate very much. So I think it's a good idea to sit in the first couple of rows. Also in this regard, I always know the students' names in the first couple of rows. But when you get to the back rows, you don't know their names. You never get to know the students. They never get to know you. You can't be their mentor. It's very problematic. So be careful about where you sit in class. The fourth thing is to be an active learner. Sit up straight, make good eye contact, nod your head that you're listening, show the professor that you are actively participating in the class. 5 is take notes, and take notes by hand. A lot of students now have gotten so used to PowerPoints that they don't bother taking notes anymore. But research has shown, and we've done a lot of research in this here at the University of Miami, that students who look only at PowerPoints get significantly lower grades than students who take notes by hand in conjunction with PowerPoints. So you want to take notes, especially by hand. The sixth is limit distractions. It's hard enough to focus. I think the average human being can focus on something for like 7 seconds, and I think a goldfish can make it to 9. All right, so you can just put that in perspective. So make your life easier, eliminate as many distractions as you possibly can. Turn off your cell phone, don't bring your laptop to class, stay off of social media. And I can't tell you how frustrating it is to teach a class when students, they're obviously not looking at you, they're looking down at their lap. So either they're playing with themselves or they're doing something on social media. Why else would they have such a big smile on their face? So it's not a good play. Don't do that. All right? The seventh thing is be prepared, okay? Read the damn syllabus. This is one of the biggest frustrations to teachers that has ever existed. How many questions I get every semester on things that are in the syllabus would just knock your socks off. It's unbelievable. And it just shows you that the student is so unprepared and so unconcerned that they haven't even given you the courtesy of reading what the course is about. All right? It's a terrible form of spoon feeding. And, to be honest with you, I, like many other professors, actually enable the students. Since you want to get good student evaluations, you don't say, listen, you jerk, read the damn syllabus. All right? You answer the question. But in that regard, I feel like I'm not really doing my job. But you should do your homework. You should practice questions. And learning how to learn really prepares you better for life. The eighth thing is to ask good questions. Every once in a while, it wouldn't kill you to study the material before class so you could go into class and actually ask a good question. As an example, I was teaching something in class, and it's a graduate class, and I have one undergraduate in the class. And this kid is by far the smartest student in the class. And he asked me a question that I actually had to go home and think about. And it took me a little while to work through the math and everything to be able to answer the question. But that hardly ever happens. And boy, that student now, he sticks out in my mind. I'm going to make sure that I'm watching that student's career. All right. So, think about that the next time you go into class. The ninth one is entitlement. Focus on learning instead of what's on the exam. It's very, very, very frustrating, when students say to the professor, "Professor, is that going to be on the exam?" I mean, I even knew a guy who retired, okay, because if he heard that one more time, he said he was going to shoot himself. So you really have to grow up. Your professor is not your mother and your father, and your boss isn't going to be your mother and your father. So don't ask them questions that you should know the answer to, all right? The 10th is be on time. Coming to class late is disrespectful. Now, this actually depends where you are in the country. As an example, if you're in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and you have an 8 a.m. meeting, everybody's there by 20 to 8. In Miami, okay, if you had an 8 a.m. meeting, half the people are there by 20 after 8. So be there on time. It's really, really distracting when somebody walks in. Now at 70 years old, when somebody walks in, I lose my place. So that now I have to ask students, where was I? And I pick it up about 70% of the time, but 30% of the time that's lost. On to the next. And that's because somebody's coming in late. Okay? So that's not something that's good to do. The 11th thing is take advantage of cultural diversity. Get to know professors and students, okay, that are from different cultures, different religions, different places in the world. I mean, learn about the world, make all of these contacts, develop all of these networks, see what you can learn from them. Go visit them in Egypt in their home, and they can come visit you in your home in Wyoming. See how different it is. I mean, this is a really, really wonderful thing. Now, at the University of Miami, where I teach as an example, we're an incredibly diverse university. There are some universities that aren't diverse at all. But if you are at a university where it's diverse, take advantage of it. I don't want to see all Chinese students hanging out with Chinese students and all Spanish-speaking students hanging out with Spanish-speaking students. Mix it up, okay? There's a lot you can learn from culture, okay? There's a lot it's just a lot to learn, all right? Okay, 12. This is a big one. Don't fall asleep, all right? It is extremely frustrating when a student is dead out asleep with their head on the desk. It's very, 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 very annoying, okay? Not only does it make you feel like you're completely boring the person, all right? However, I do understand that people, are stressed out. They don't get a good night's sleep. I understand why, okay, they fall asleep, but it doesn't make it any less interesting. So here are two solutions. One is you could get a cup of coffee to get a little buzz, or eat some sugar or something like that, but that's going to be short-lived. But my favorite, and I think this works the greatest, is just stand up and just go like this, okay, like your back hurts, and just stand up against the wall. Everybody will know your back hurts, and then you won't fall asleep because you're standing, okay? Horses can fall asleep when they're standing, but people, not usually, okay? Every once in a while you may see a guy in a subway hanging on a strap, dead asleep, but it's not common, all right? The 13th one is, if you're learning something hands-on, you could take a photo or a video of it. For example, I was explaining something to students in my class on how to draw a particular picture, and I said, take out your iPhones and videotape me drawing this picture, so you can refer back to it to see exactly how it's done. By the way, an interesting sidebar is, after all of that, maybe 30% of the students still don't get it right, which I will go to my grave not understanding. The 14th one is teaching to others. One of the greatest ways to learn is to teach. And there was an old joke. Two professors were walking down the street, and one said, do you know X? And he says, no, I haven't taught it yet. So teaching is an incredible way of learning. And that's something you should think about to be a good student. The 15th one is, when it comes to term papers, read the instructions, read the syllabus, and once again, I can't tell you how many students lose significant numbers of points just because they don't do things that are clearly stated on the syllabus. For example, if I ask for a term paper to be sent in, okay, to me as a Word file, and they send it in as a PDF file, I can't use track changes and put my comments on it. So I have to send it back to the student and say, please send it back to me as a Word document. And and you take off points for that stuff because it's annoying. All right. I mean, you got a ton of papers to get through, and now you got to deal with this special random mishigas, which is a Yiddish word for irritation. All right. The 16th one is use study time wisely. And, think of it like the Pareto rule, the 80-20 rule. Spend 80% of your time on the stuff that the professor is going to ask because he or she has said it in class. And I can't tell you how many times the students come up to me and say, is this going to be on the test? And if you actually took notes, everything that's on the test I say is going to be on the test, okay, during the semester. But they come up, and that also is very annoying. And the last thing is, build relationships with your professor. Well, the first thing you don't want to do is annoy the professor, like by not reading the syllabus. But remember, a professor can be a mentor to you. I have a lot of students that I mentor. Rick and Bree, they've been mentees of mine for years, and now they're kind of mentoring me back. It's a beautiful thing. But you should really hook up with professors, okay? Because they can do things for you. They can help you get jobs, etc., etc., etc. Now, in terms of use it or lose it and make it actionable, to be a better student, follow the 17 tips that we just talked about. And when to use it? Well, if you're a student and you're trying to learn new things, that's when you should use it. And what do you think about all this stuff? Well, which of these tips resonate most with you, and do you have any other tips that would be helpful to other students? And if you do, please share them, with us below. And until I see you next time, remember, prime your pump.